Palantir is perhaps the most mysterious software company of the modern age and has been growing non-stop across both government and corporate sectors since the early 2000s. Since its IPO in 2020, the stock price of the company has been a masterclass in market volatility, surging from single digits to a multi-hundred billion dollar valuation that recently secured its place in the S&P 500.
The stock is up 50% in the last 52 weeks.
Palantir reporting third quarter results above expectations in a big way.
But while investors have been pumping capital into the stock, confusion remains about what they actually do and how they make money. Unlike consumer giants like Google or Meta that trade in personal data and ad clicks, Palantir deals in the high-stake world of institutional intelligence. The company was founded in 2003 with a singular gritty mission: to help the US intelligence community track terrorists in the post-9/11 world. The core of Palantir is rooted to help detecting unusual or suspicious patterns in large datasets. For about 2 decades, Palantir suffered the pioneering cost of building software for a client base that doesn't talk, restricted primarily to the shadowy corridors of the CIA, FBI, and the Department of Defense. Their business was a high-barrier, low-visibility niche, where survival depended on securing massive, multi-year government contracts that were difficult to obtain. While the rest of Silicon Valley was building apps for social networking and food delivery, Palantir was quietly refining a different kind of product. They realized that big data is universally a high-friction industry. For a global airline or a massive healthcare system, the problem isn't a lack of data. It's that their data is trapped in disconnected legacy systems, making real-time decision-making impossible. Palantir positioned itself as the solution to this chaos. They took Gotham, the platform that helped track down terrorists, and adopted it into Foundry, a commercial version built to manage everything from Airbus' global supply chain to the UK's National Health Service. By 2026, the competitive landscape has shifted dramatically. While traditional software-as-a-service companies are seeing their growth plateau, Palantir has found its second wind in the artificial intelligence platform, or AIP. They have turned the complex ethical minefield of enterprise AI into a streamlined, high-margin business model. Through their bootcamp strategy, they have managed to compress a 6-month sales cycle into a matter of days, proving their value to Fortune 500 executives in real time. To understand how Palantir actually generates millions in revenue, we have to look inside their digital arsenal. They don't just sell software, they sell 4 distinct platforms that act as the structural framework for an organization's entire data reality. First, there's Gotham. This was the original Seeing Stone, built specifically for the battlefield and the dark corners of the intelligence community. Gotham is designed to integrate structured and unstructured data, everything from cell phone signals and satellite imagery to bank records to identify needle-in-a-haystack patterns. It's what allowed military commanders and anti-terrorism units to map out insurgent networks or track a single target across an entire continent. In Gotham, data isn't just stored. It's visualized in a way that allows a human operator to see the invisible threads connecting events in real time. But the real turning point for Palantir's valuation came with Foundry. This is the commercial and enterprise-focused platform designed for the Fortune 500. Large enterprises like global banks or aerospace giants like Airbus are often paralyzed by information trapped in different departments that can't talk to each other. Foundry breaks those information down, creating what Palantir calls a digital twin of the company. It allows an airline to optimize every single nut and bolt in its supply chain, or a bank to detect money laundering before it hits the wire. Underpinning both of this is Apollo. Think of Apollo as the invisible delivery system, the underlying operating system that ensures Gotham and Foundry can function anywhere. Whether it's a high-security public cloud or a classified air-gapped server inside a nuclear submarine, Apollo manages the updates and deployments without human intervention. It's the reason Palantir can operate in environments where traditional software would simply fail. Finally, we have the new hypergrowth engine, AIP. This is Palantir's answer to the generative AI revolution. AIP allows organizations to safely plug large language models into their private secure data. It bridges the gap between the chatbots we use at home and the secure regulated operations required by a hospital or a logistics firm. Palantir's revenue is split into two distinct high-stake roles. About 55% of revenue comes from government contracts. Their clients are the US Department of Defense, the CIA, and the UK's National Health Service. These are what we call sticky clients. Once a government agency integrates its most sensitive national security data into Palantir's ecosystem, the cost and risk of switching to a competitor are nearly unthinkable. These contracts are massive, often spanning several years and worth hundreds of millions of dollars. More importantly, they are recession-resistant. Governments don't stop spending on intelligence and defense when the economy slows down, giving Palantir a financial floor that most Silicon Valley firms lack. Commercial revenue, however, is the growth engine that Wall Street is currently obsessed with. Palantir isn't looking for small startups. They target the whales, massive enterprises with legacy infrastructure that is drowning in chaotic data. These companies process the capital to pay for elite software but lack the internal engineering talent to build it from scratch. By targeting industries with high operational complexity like energy, healthcare, and manufacturing, Palantir has turned the messy reality of corporate data into a high-margin, high-cash flow business. But Palantir's financial success isn't just about the code. It's about a high-conviction revenue model and a sales strategy that mimics a military siege. Palantir doesn't play in the world of cheap $20 a month SaaS. They aren't interested in the low-margin turnkey role of consumer software. Instead, they sell multi-year recurring licenses in multi-million dollar. When Palantir signs a deal, it's a long-term partnership. But they don't just hand over a login and a menu. Palantir's secret weapon is their forward-deployed software engineers. These aren't typical customer support reps. They are elite engineers who are sent directly into the client's headquarters. Whether it's a government agency or a Fortune 500 bank, these engineers embed themselves within the organization to clean messy data, integrate legacy systems, and build custom solutions on top of the Palantir platforms. It's an expensive, labor-intensive approach, but it ensures that the software actually works in the world's most difficult environments, and it creates a level of trust and dependency that self-service software could never achieve. This brings us to the core of their growth, the land and expand strategy. It is a three-stage process designed to take Palantir from a single pilot program to the very brink of a global organization. The first step is about getting through the door to acquire. In the past, this was a slow, grueling process of government bidding, but today, Palantir uses bootcamps, specifically for their AIP platform. They offer high-intensity short-term workshops where they show executives their own data being processed by Palantir's AI in real time. By providing immediate proof of return on investment at little to no initial cost, they bypass months of bureaucratic hesitation. Once the software lands in one department, say solving a logistics nightmare in the warehouse, it begins to spread and expand. When the CFO sees that the logistics team just saved $15 million using Palantir, they naturally want those same insights applied to HR, finance, or marketing. This allows Palantir to aggressively pitch to other departments, rapidly inflating the total value of the contract without having to find a new customer. In the final stage, the software becomes the core system of the entire company. Every decision from supply chain management to workforce planning is filtered through Palantir's platforms. At this point, switching to a competitor isn't just a matter of changing software, it becomes operationally terrifying and financially ruinous. This creates a moat that is nearly impossible to cross, ensuring near-perfect retention rates and a recurring revenue stream that is practically guaranteed for years. By the time a client realizes how dependent they are on Palantir, the software has already become indispensable. But the very features that make Palantir indispensable to an organization are the same ones that have earned it a persistent reputation. Since its inception, Palantir has been a lightning rod for privacy advocates. Unlike other tech giants that might leak data by accident, Palantir's entire business model is built on the intentional integration of data. This has led to high-profile controversy regarding their government work. One of the most enduring criticisms involved their relationship with the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Critics argue that Palantir's tools were used to facilitate deportations by stitching together disparate records, from driver's license to social media, to track individuals. Similarly, the use of their software in predictive policing has sparked debates about algorithmic bias and the over-surveillance of marginalized communities. In 2025 and 2026, new projects like Immigration OS have only deepened this divide, with critics calling it a digital harvester for state power. Herein lies the Palantir paradox. The features that privacy advocates found terrifying, the ability to see everything, connect every dot, and eliminate all friction in information, are precisely what makes the software so valuable to a government trying to stop a terror cell or a corporation trying to save $100 million in its supply chain. For Palantir, privacy isn't hiding data from the system. It's about building a system so secure that only those with the right clearances can see the patterns it uncovers. As we look towards the rest of 2026, Palantir's business model has proven to be one of the most resilient in the tech sector. They don't sell a product, they sell a high-cost, high-value, and incredibly sticky digital infrastructure. By the time a client reaches the scale phase of the land and expand strategy, Palantir has moved from being a vendor to becoming the operational source of truth. Their financial moat isn't just protected by patience or brand names, it's protected by the sheer complexity and necessity of the problem they solve. Whether you view Palantir as a dystopian surveillance machine or a vital tool for Western security and industrial efficiency, one thing is clear. They have built an incredibly lucrative fortress around the world's most important data. In an age where information is the most valuable commodity on Earth, Palantir doesn't just own the mine. They own the only map that shows where the gold is buried. Thank you for watching.